My parents took everything from me. They never expected my silent revenge. My name is Adrian Cole, and I'm 29 years old. 3 weeks ago, I found out my parents had been stealing from me for 11 years. Not borrowing, stealing. The discovery came on a Tuesday morning when a lawyer called my office. "Mr. Cole, I'm calling about your grandmother's estate. There's been a discrepancy." I almost hung up. Grandma Helen died when I was 18. What discrepancy could exist after 11 years? What kind of discrepancy? The lawyer, Nathan Brooks, hesitated. "Your inheritance was never distributed to you. The funds were transferred to Diane and Paul Cole in 2014, your parents." My coffee went cold in my hand. Before I tell you what that inheritance was worth and what I did about it, let me ask you something. Subscribe if you've ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they'd been lying to your face for years. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now, let me take you back to where this all started. The amount was $312,000. Grandma Helen had left everything to me, her only grandchild. She'd written in her will that the money was for my future, for college, for starting my life right. I never saw a single cent. Instead, I graduated with $89,000 in student loans. I worked 3 jobs through college. I ate ramen for dinner 4 nights a week and skipped meals when money got tight. My parents knew. They watched me struggle. They never offered help. Now I understood why. They'd already taken what was mine. Nathan Brooks explained everything over the phone that Tuesday. Your grandmother's lawyer retired in 2015. The files were transferred to our firm last month. During our audit, we noticed the beneficiary's signature didn't match your current signature on file. He paused. "Mr. Cole, did you sign documents releasing your inheritance to your parents?" Never. I'd never even known there was an inheritance. That evening, I sat in my apartment staring at the documents Nathan had emailed. Bank transfers, forged signatures, legal forms with my name signed in handwriting that looked nothing like mine. $312,000, transferred in 2014 to my parents' joint account. I pulled up my own records from that year. I was 18, freshman year at State University, working at a campus bookstore for $9 an hour, eating cheese sandwiches because they were cheapest. My parents visited once that semester. Mom brought homemade cookies. Dad slipped me $40 for pizza. I'd been so grateful. So pathetically grateful for $40 while they sat on my $300,000. The rage came slowly, then all at once. My hands shook as I scrolled through the bank statements Nathan had sent. They'd spent it. New car in 2015, kitchen renovation in 2016, a boat in 2017. A boat. I didn't call them. Not yet. Instead, I called Nathan Brooks back. "What are my options?" Nathan's voice was measured, professional. "Criminal charges for fraud and forgery. Civil suit for recovery of funds plus damages, both," he paused. "But Mr. Cole, they're your parents. These cases can destroy families." They'd already destroyed the family, they just didn't know I'd figured it out yet. "I want both," I said. "Criminal and civil. I want everything documented." Nathan scheduled a meeting for Friday. I spent the next 3 days doing research. I created a spreadsheet. Every dollar they'd stolen, every lie they'd told. Every time they'd watched me struggle while spending my money. The timeline was sickening. But I needed to be sure. I needed to know if this was really what I thought it was, or if somehow there was an explanation that made sense. Friday morning, I drove to my parents' house. They lived in a beautiful neighborhood, 2-story colonial, with a perfectly manicured lawn. The driveway held 2 cars, Dad's Lexus and Mom's BMW. Both purchased in 2015 according to my research. Both bought with my inheritance. I knocked. Mom answered, surprised. "Adrian, what a nice surprise. Come in, sweetheart." The house smelled like cinnamon, some expensive candle probably. The kitchen renovation gleamed. Marble countertops, professional-grade appliances, custom cabinets. All installed in 2016. All paid for with money Grandma Helen left for my future. Dad was in the living room reading the newspaper. "Hey, son. What brings you by?" I sat down on their leather couch. "Another 2015 purchase." "I got an interesting phone call this week," I said calmly. "From a lawyer named Nathan Brooks." Mom's smile froze. Dad's newspaper lowered slowly. "What did he want?" Dad's voice was carefully neutral. He was calling about Grandma Helen's estate. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mom recovered first. "Oh, that old business. We handled all that years ago, honey. Nothing for you to worry about." Handled it. That's what she called stealing $300,000 from their own son. "Actually, there's a problem," I continued. "The inheritance was supposed to come to me. All of it, but somehow it ended up in your account instead." Dad set down his newspaper. "Adrian, your grandmother wanted us to manage that money for you. We invested it. We were protecting it until you were ready." Lies. Smooth, practiced lies. "Really?" I pulled out my phone, opened the documents Nathan had sent. "Because these bank statements show you bought 2 cars, renovated your kitchen, and purchased a boat. That doesn't look like protecting my money. That looks like spending it." The room went silent. Mom's face turned pale. Dad's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the full situation," Dad started. "Then explain it." My voice stayed calm. Inside, I was screaming. Dad stood up, his lawyer voice activating. "Your grandmother's estate was complicated. There were taxes, fees, legal costs. We handled everything. We were going to give you what remained when you graduated. I graduated 7 years ago. We've had expenses. Your mother's medical bills, the house maintenance. We planned to pay you back. Medical bills. Mom hadn't been sick a day in 11 years. House maintenance. Their house was perfect because they'd renovated it with my money." "How much is left?" I asked. They looked at each other. That look told me everything. "How much is left?" I repeated. Mom's voice was small. "We'll have to check the accounts." Nothing. There was nothing left. I stood up slowly. "I met with Nathan Brooks yesterday. He's filing criminal charges for fraud and forgery. He's also filing a civil suit for the full amount, plus interest and damages." Mom gasped. "Adrian, you can't be serious. We're your parents. You forged my signature. You stole my inheritance. You watched me work 3 jobs and eat ramen while you bought luxury cars with my money." My voice finally cracked. "You let me graduate with $89,000 in debt when I should have had $300,000 to start my life." Dad's face turned red. "We gave you everything. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head. You owe us. I don't owe you my inheritance from Grandma Helen. That was mine. She left it to me." I walked toward the door. Mom followed, crying now. "Please, Adrian, we can work this out. We're family." I turned back. "Family doesn't steal. You stopped being my family the day you forged my name." The lawsuit moved forward quickly. Nathan was thorough and relentless. Every document, every bank transfer, every forged signature was cataloged and submitted to the court. My parents hired their own lawyer, Gregory Walsh. He was expensive. Ironic, considering they claimed to have no money left. The first court date was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Nathan advised me to cut all contact. "They'll try to manipulate you," he warned. "Guilt, anger, promises, don't engage." He was right. My phone exploded with messages. Mom sent long texts about how hurt she was, how ungrateful I was being, how families work through problems together. Dad sent shorter, angrier messages. Accusations of betrayal, threats about what this would do to their reputation. I blocked their numbers. Then came the emails. Then the messages through social media. Then they showed up at my apartment. I didn't answer the door. My older brother Cameron called. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. He'd moved to Seattle, started his own tech company, barely stayed in touch with the family. "Adrian, what the hell is going on?" Mom called me crying. I told him everything. The inheritance, the forgery, the theft, the lawsuit. Cameron was quiet for a long time. 300,000? His voice was tight. "Yeah, did you know?" "No, but explain something." He paused. "When I started my company, I asked them for a loan. 20,000. They said they didn't have it. They said money was tight. I felt sick. When was this?" 2016, right after they renovated their kitchen, apparently. Cameron laughed, but it wasn't funny. "They wouldn't loan me 20,000 to start my business, but they could spend your inheritance on marble countertops." "I'm sorry, Cam." "Don't be. I'm testifying for you if you need me." The preliminary hearing was brutal. My parents sat across the courtroom looking devastated. Mom cried quietly. Dad stared straight ahead, his jaw set. Nathan presented the evidence methodically. The will, the forged signatures, the bank transfers, the timeline of purchases. It was damning. Gregory Walsh, their lawyer, argued that my parents had acted in my best interest. that they'd invested the money, that circumstances had changed, that families shouldn't destroy each other over money. This isn't about money, Nathan countered. This is about fraud. The defendants forged their son's signature and stole his inheritance. The fact that they're related doesn't make it legal. The judge, an older woman named Patricia Hoffman, reviewed the documents. Her expression gave nothing away. "We'll reconvene in 2 weeks," she said finally. "I want both parties to consider settlement negotiations." Settlement. My parents wanted to settle. Gregory Walsh approached Nathan after the hearing. "My clients are willing to discuss repayment terms." The settlement meeting happened in Nathan's office. Neutral ground. My parents arrived looking smaller somehow, older. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's hands shook slightly. Gregory Walsh laid out their offer. "My clients acknowledge that mistakes were made. They're willing to repay $50,000 over 5 years." I laughed. Couldn't help it. 50,000? They stole 312,000. "That's what remains in accessible assets," Gregory explained. "The rest has been spent. Forcing liquidation of their home and possessions would leave them destitute." Nathan leaned forward. "Your clients committed fraud. They forged documents. They spent money that wasn't theirs. 50,000 doesn't begin to cover the damages." "The court will consider their age and circumstances," Gregory argued. "They're not criminals. They're parents who made poor financial decisions." "They're criminals who happen to be parents," I said quietly. The room went silent. Mom started crying again. I didn't look at her. Before we could respond to their offer, I did something Nathan didn't know about. I hired a private investigator. His name was Frank Chen. No, wait, I can't use that name. His name was Frank Porter. I wanted to know exactly what my parents had done with my money. Frank was thorough. Within a week, he had a complete financial timeline. The 2 cars, 78,000 combined. The kitchen renovation, 42,000. The boat, 35,000. A timeshare in Florida, 28,000. Country club membership, 18,000 in fees over 6 years. Vacation to Europe, 15,000. New furniture, 12,000. The list went on. $312,000 itemized, not invested, not protected. Spent on luxury items while I ate ramen and worked overnight shifts. Frank found something else too. A second account. My parents had opened it in 2015, titled Adrian's Future Fund. It was empty now, but the transaction history showed deposits and withdrawals. They'd actually labeled it with my name while spending every cent. I brought Frank's report to Nathan. He read it silently, his expression darkening with each page. "This is worse than we thought," he said finally. "They created an account in your name while spending the money. That shows intent and planning. Can we use this?" "Absolutely. This destroys their argument about acting in your best interest. They knew exactly what they were doing." Nathan scheduled another court date. "No more settlement talks. We're going for full judgment and criminal prosecution." That night, my brother Cameron called again. "I found something. Remember how they said they couldn't loan me money in 2016? Yeah. I pulled my old emails. Dad specifically said they'd spent their retirement savings helping you through college." My stomach turned. That was a lie. "I know that now. But Adrian, they told everyone. The whole family thinks they sacrificed everything for your education." The manipulation ran deeper than I'd realized. They hadn't just stolen my money, they'd stolen my reputation too. The next court hearing was different. Nathan brought Frank's report. He presented it methodically, page by page. The judge's expression shifted from neutral to shocked to disgusted. "You created an account titled Adrian's Future Fund?" Judge Hoffman addressed my parents directly. "While spending his inheritance on country club memberships and European vacations?" Gregory Walsh stammered. "Your Honor, my clients intended to replenish that account." "With what funds?" The judge's voice was sharp. "They've admitted they have nothing left." The hearing lasted 3 hours. Nathan called Cameron as a witness. My brother testified about the loan request, about Dad's lies, about the family narrative that painted me as the ungrateful son who'd been given everything. "They told my aunts and uncles that Adrian was spoiled," Cameron said. "That he demanded expensive schools and refused to work. Meanwhile, he was working 3 jobs and living on nothing." Mom sobbed throughout his testimony. Dad stared at the table. The judge called a recess. During the break, Mom approached me in the hallway. Nathan moved to intercept, but I held up my hand. Adrian, please. Her voice was broken. We never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? She wiped her eyes. We were going to tell you. We just needed time. 11 years wasn't enough time? We made mistakes, we got carried away, but we love you. We're still your parents. I looked at this woman who'd raised me, who'd packed my school lunches and attended my baseball games and taught me to ride a bike, who'd also forged my signature and stolen my future. Love doesn't look like this, Mom. We'll lose everything. The house, our savings, our retirement. Is that what you want? I want what Grandma Helen wanted, for her money to go to me. You stole that. Now face the consequences. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Judge Hoffman's ruling came 2 weeks later. I find the defendants guilty of fraud, forgery, and theft by conversion. The evidence is overwhelming and disturbing. These aren't simple financial mistakes. This is calculated, sustained theft from a family member. She ordered my parents to pay full restitution, $312,000 plus 11 years of interest at 5% annually. The total came to $523,000. If the defendants cannot pay within 90 days, their assets will be liquidated, including their primary residence. Criminal charges were referred to the prosecutor. Mom collapsed in her chair. Dad sat frozen. Gregory Walsh requested an appeal. Denied. As we left the courtroom, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You destroyed your own parents. I hope you're proud. I deleted it. Nathan put his hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, did I? I wasn't sure what right felt like anymore. My parents couldn't pay. Of course they couldn't. They'd spent everything. The liquidation process began immediately. A court-appointed assessor valued their house at $410,000. Their cars, furniture, boat, and other assets would cover another $60,000. They'd come up short by about $50,000, which would be garnished from Dad's pension. They had 60 days to vacate the house. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. My Aunt Rebecca called. She was Mom's younger sister. How could you do this to them? She didn't let me answer. They're losing their home. Your father might lose his pension. Your mother is on medication for anxiety. Is money really worth destroying your family? They destroyed the family when they stole from me. They made mistakes. You're vindictive. I hung up. The calls kept coming. Cousins, family friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all telling me I was wrong, all believing my parents' version where they were victims and I was cruel. Only 2 people understood. Cameron and Grandma Helen's old neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Wells. She was 86 now. She called me one evening. Your grandmother would be proud of you, she said. Proud that I'm forcing my parents out of their home. Proud that you stood up for yourself. Helen knew about your parents, Adrian. She knew exactly what kind of people they were. My throat tightened. What do you mean? Why do you think she left everything to you and nothing to them? She saw how they were. Materialistic, status-obsessed, manipulative. She was protecting you from them. Mrs. Wells paused. Helen told me before she died. She said, this money is for Adrian's freedom. They'll try to take it, but eventually he'll figure out who they really are. She was right. I cried for the first time since this started. For Grandma Helen. For the parents I'd thought I had. For the family that never really existed. The estate sale was scheduled for a Saturday. I didn't plan to go, but the morning of, something pulled me there. I parked down the street and watched. Strangers picked through my childhood. The couch where I'd done homework. The dining table where we'd eaten Thanksgiving dinner. The boat they'd bought with my money, now selling for a fraction of what they'd paid. Mom and Dad stood in the garage, watching it all go. They looked broken. Dad had aged 10 years and 3 months. Mom's hands trembled as she handed items to buyers. I almost left, almost drove, away. Then I saw what Mom was selling, a photo album. My baby pictures, school photos, family memories. She was selling it for $5. I got out of my truck, walked up the driveway. The buyer, a middle-aged woman, was flipping through the album. I pulled out my wallet. I'll give you $20 for it. The woman shrugged and took my money. Mom saw me, her face crumpled. Adrian, I took the album without responding, started to walk away. Wait, please. I stopped. We're sorry. We're so sorry. We were wrong. We were selfish and stupid and wrong. Dad appeared beside her. He looked at me with empty eyes. We know we can't fix this. We know you'll never forgive us. We just wanted you to know we understand why you did it. The words I'd waited months to hear, they meant nothing now. Where will you go? I asked. Your Aunt Rebecca is letting us stay in her basement until we figure something out. The basement. My parents, who'd lived in luxury on my stolen inheritance, were moving into a basement. The criminal trial starts next month, I said. I know, our lawyer says we'll probably get probation since we paid restitution, but we'll have records. Your father will lose his professional license. Good, I wanted to say it, but the word stuck in my throat. I just nodded and walked away. The restitution money hit my account in stages as assets were sold. By November, I had $490,000, more than the original inheritance because of interest. I stared at the number on my screen. This was supposed to feel like victory. It felt like ash. I paid off my student loans, all $89,000. Watching that balance go to zero should have been satisfying. It just felt necessary. I invested the rest conservatively, exactly like Grandma Helen would have wanted. Set up a trust that I couldn't touch except for specific purposes. A house down payment, starting a business, emergency medical needs. The money was protected now, from everyone, including me. Cameron flew in for Thanksgiving. We had dinner at my apartment, just the two of us. How are you holding up? He asked. I don't know. I did the right thing, but it doesn't feel right. That's because you're not like them. You have a conscience. We ate in silence for a while. Then Cameron said, I'm proud of you. The criminal trial ended in February. My parents pled guilty to fraud and forgery. They received 2 years probation, 500 hours community service, and permanent criminal records. Dad lost his CPA license. Mom lost her job when her employer discovered the conviction. They were financially and professionally ruined. I didn't attend the sentencing. I'd said everything I needed to say, but I read the transcript later. The judge asked if they had anything to say. Dad spoke. We betrayed our son's trust in the worst possible way. We stole his future and lied to his face for 11 years. We deserve everything that's happened to us. Our only hope is that someday, somehow, Adrian might find it in his heart to forgive us. Not for our sake, for his. The transcript noted that Mom was crying too hard to speak. I closed the document, put it in a folder, filed it away. Forgiveness. They wanted forgiveness. I didn't know if I had it to give. A year later, my life looked completely different. I'd used part of the trust to start my own consulting business. It was small but growing. I bought a modest house, nothing fancy, just mine. Cameron visited often. We'd grown closer through all of this. The family that had condemned me for destroying my parents eventually learned the truth. Some apologized, most just stopped calling. I was fine with that. The real surprise came on a Tuesday afternoon. Mrs. Wells called. Adrian, I have something for you. Can you stop by? I drove to her house that evening. She handed me a sealed envelope. Helen left this with me. She made me promise to give it to you if you ever had to fight for your inheritance. She knew, sweetheart. She knew exactly what would happen. Inside was a letter in Grandma Helen's handwriting, dated 1 week before she died. My dear Adrian, if you're reading this, then my daughter and her husband have done exactly what I feared. They've stolen from you. The letter continued. I'm leaving you this money, not just for your future, but to teach you something important. Some people, even people we love, will betray us. They'll justify it, minimize it, blame us for their choices. Your parents are those people. I've watched them for years. They love you, in their way. But they love money and status more. When they take this inheritance, and they will, you'll have a choice. Let them get away with it to keep the peace, or fight for what's yours, and lose the family. If you fought, I'm proud of you. Standing up to people who've hurt us, especially when they're family, is the hardest thing we'll ever do. But it's also how we become who we're meant to be. The money I left you was never just about money. It was about freedom. Freedom from people who see you as a resource instead of a person. Use it well. Build a life they can't touch. And remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Love always, Grandma Helen. I sat in Mrs. Wells's living room, crying. She'd known everything, and she'd still believed I was worth protecting. A week later, I scattered Grandma Helen's ashes in her favorite garden like she'd requested in her will. My parents weren't there. Neither were most of the family, just Cameron, Mrs. Wells, and me. As I poured the ashes among the roses, I whispered, "Thank you for everything." The wind carried the words away. I'd done it. I'd fought for what was mine. I'd set boundaries. I'd chosen myself when no one else would. And somehow, standing in that garden with the two people who'd actually stood by me, I finally felt something other than hollow. I felt free. If you've ever had to choose between family and self-respect, between peace and justice, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment. Tell me, did I do the right thing? And if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Subscribe if you believe standing up for yourself isn't revenge, it's survival. My name is Adrienne Cole. This is my story, and I'd do it all again. My parents took everything from me. They never expected my silent revenge.